Very happy to have you, Grace. But maybe you can give us a little intro who you are, what you do, and why I think it's a good idea to have you.
So my name is Grace. I'm the founder and CEO at Andromeda Robotics. We're building Abby, who is a social companion robot that goes into nursing homes to alleviate loneliness and isolation. Yeah.
Huge topic. Um,
Yeah, yeah, massive. Yeah.
and for those who are following along, they know them all about the journey, the upbringing, the people or things that inspired you. And yeah, maybe you can give us a little bit of background here.
Yeah, like what got me into robotics specifically?
I
Or
mean, this would be the second question, if you don't mind, and if you're excited to share. I'm always interested in like early things because a lot of people that are on the podcast have um, a passion for mechanical engineering or computer
Mm,
science very early on. Got the first
yeah.
computer was 6 or something. So whatever you think as early as you'd like to start, just start.
Yeah, well, I guess probably the first indication that I was going to go down the path that I went down was well, when I was really young, I always like thoroughly enjoyed maths and physics and science. They were always some of my favorite subjects in school. I never had that kind of like resentment towards maths that I think most children did. My parents, they kind of as like as like a reward for doing good things, my dad would always give me like these like little math quizzes, like, double, triple digit addition, multiplication. So to me, it was like kind of like a puzzle. So when I was really young, my like aspirations was to like, maybe like 5 or 6, my aspiration was to grow up and be a mathematician because I thought they were really cool and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, so I think that kind of always helped. So in school I did quite well, like from a traditional standpoint. But it wasn't until about 10th grade when I took an engineering subject and we had to build this like 3 degree of freedom hydraulic arm and we had to prove it out mathematically first before we went off to the workshop and build it. And that was kind of like, yeah, that was like my gateway drug into engineering. I had so much fun. Like it was just basically applied maths. But then on top of that, you got to go into a workshop and then actually build something like what you'd been writing about and kind of like drawing and like and putting in simulation, you got to build in real life. And so that was really awesome to me. And then in 11th grade, we played with Arduinos. And so we were in like the like Arduino terminal, wrote a few lines of code, controlled a few actuators and motors. And to me, that was like real life magic because you went from just writing something on your computer to like moving something in real life. And so that was really, really quite eye-opening for me. And I just had so much fun. I always really enjoyed these subjects. And I thought if being an engineer was anything like that at all, like I knew that that was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So that's probably how it all started for me.
So really passion and joy and curiosity.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, it was always just, yeah, just so much passion and joy and engagement with these subjects at school. So, yeah, I feel very fortunate in that sense. I think as a lot of people in high school and, they perhaps are really uncertain of the paths that they want to take. And I feel really grateful because that was always so clear to me that, I was going to go down a STEM path and either be a mathematician or an engineer or something in the sciences or engineering. Like it was almost like there's a weird analogy, but it was almost like knowing like your kind of like your sexuality. Like I just always knew when I was a teenager that this was the career path for me. So I feel very lucky in that sense.
I mean, having this kind of certainty helps when there's a lot of things that are uncertain and waiting for you. So I
Mm,
think having this lighthouse within a North
hmm
Star
hmm
can get you through a lot of struggle. I mean, I have a lot of students reaching out. They're about to enter university or they are within university or just finished university. And the question is always, what should I do? There's too many things. I have too many interests and how
Yeah,
should I decide on what to do and what not? And especially robotics. I
yeah,
mean, it's the field that includes so many. I mean, you can be a mechanical engineer, a computer
yeah.
scientist, you can do electrical engineering, right? There are so many things, and what path should I take, right?
Mhm.
But for you, it seems like either way, everything is exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's actually I feel like a lot of great engineers have that problem where there is just so many things that you can do and pursue, like whether it's like electrical, software, mechanical, and in software there's so many disciplines as well. And that was probably the thing I struggled with was actually deciding within engineering what do I want to specialize in. So I ended up choosing mechatronics engineering, which I call the indecisive engineer because you do touch on all three disciplines. And that's come in really handy running a business because, I was able to start like, Abby's code base and write some code for her. I was able to do the electrical systems and also the mechanical designs. Like I was across all of them. So it was like the generalist out of the engineering disciplines. So yeah, it is a high quality problem.
But so you said instead of doing one thing, you choose that degree that gives you the opportunity to touch or that has so many overlapping parts with the other degrees that are just very straightforward. But still, that is also a decision, right?
Yeah.
And friends, family, was there? I mean, was that also again some decision that came within, or people guiding you, or you've seen other people? Because one of the main themes of the podcast is hopefully having a few people listening and watching and say, okay, if this person can do it, I can do it. Like this is very powerful to me.
Yeah, no, I definitely believe in that. Like, particularly for girls and women, like, you can't be what you can't see. That's a sentiment that I really, really believe in. And for me, I think engineering was something that I kind of knew just I had an innate passion for. But I think entrepreneurship was something where I did look up to lots of different people. There was, women who had founded various organizations. One like RoboGals, the founder of RoboGals, she went to my university. She was just a handful of years ahead of me, and reading about her journey was so inspiring for me to be like, oh my God, someone from Melbourne University can do something that has such global impact. And that was really inspiring for me. Reading about like Lady Ada and, seeing everything that she had done with Adafruit and all the development boards and, following her work, that was so inspiring for me as well. So there's definitely been a lot of women who have been, ahead of my time. And I was looking at their paths and just becoming really, really inspired to want to be able to pursue that. And yeah, and I probably wouldn't have had the self-belief to actually chase building a business and going down being a founder if I hadn't seen these people. Because when you look around Silicon Valley and you look around at all the top founders and they don't look like you. They don't look like me. They don't look like 5'2" young girls who are quite feminine and quite girly pop and all of that. And so you feel like it's hard to see yourself in that position. But then when you do see people who look like you, act like you, speak like you in these really kind of like exciting roles and have done really exciting things in the career, you start thinking like you can do that too. And so for me, I feel like I don't know if this is almost like egotistical to say, but I almost feel like there's this responsibility for me to be able to have the level of success that I want to achieve so that the next generation of girls after me also can see what they can do and what they can pursue because yeah, a lot of it comes from self-confidence, and we know like the data shows that women traditionally are a lot less confident in their abilities than most of their male counterparts. So yeah.
I think I just mentioned this in the last episode that I recorded. I went swimming with my little one. She's a girl as well, so she's two and a
Mm.
half, and so we spent the entire day at one of those swimming places indoor. And I really like to see how just encouraging her and giving her that little push verbally and with my emotions, like you can do this, you can jump, like seeing her the remove the struggle and then
Mm.
understanding, okay, there's someone who will catch me, right? And I think this is definitely what you said. Well, how did you frame it? You
You
can't
can't be what you can't see.
yeah, I think this is very powerful, and yeah, this is one of the main reasons why I have this, and I'm very happy that you are here.
Mm.
Being in university then seems like a few things came easy to you, but you also said applied math. Yeah, this applying and deploying is a big topic here also on the podcast because demos are demos and deploying is deployment.
Mm.
The other thing that you said is become an entrepreneur, right? I'm talking to a lot of people here on the podcast that are very long. They spend years in academia. How is it very? You were mentioning those women, those women um, women to to build these kind of companies, but there's still a step from having a degree and then deciding on becoming an entrepreneur. There's the percentage you can see. There's not too many people that decide that, okay, I would like to do something like them on my own.
Mm.
Where those stories, were they a huge influence in like doing this and pursuing this?
They definitely were. I think the biggest thing that I think the biggest thing that really pushed me down being a founder was well, to me, it was like the almost like the shortest path to build Abbey as fast as possible at as large of a scale as possible as well. Like to me, it was never really about being a founder and building a business. It was I wanted to build Abbey. I wanted to me, Andromeda is almost like a medium and a vehicle to be able to create the technology that I want to build in this world and have the impact that I want to have. And so, I recognize that universities particularly at the university I was at, like I felt like I wasn't I felt almost a little bit like boxed in. A whole reason, a big reason I started Abby as well was a creative outlet to be able to build and break things and upskill my abilities as a robotics engineer. And I felt like universities are very like they're very I don't know, like they're very like monochrome in a way. Everyone kind of learns at the same pace. And, I think if you're doing just what is required of you in university and in your course curriculum, like you don't get really far in the disciplines that you want to do. And so you have to kind of like go outside your course, and particularly in the field that we're in, like if you're in something that's so frontier, like it's not going to be like whatever is at the most frontier is not going to be very unlikely to be in your course curriculum. So, to me, I wanted to learn what was the latest in robotics, what was the latest in, different models that were available, how do we use them, how do we build things that people can actually use. And so it wasn't going to be through my university degree, it was going to be through me learning all of this outside myself. And a lot of what I've learned as an engineer, I don't want to say I didn't get it from university, but I got it from mentors and people and builders outside of my course curriculum. Like that's where I've had my steepest learning curve. So yeah, it was probably that attraction and the appeal to really hyper growth, like personal growth, that really got me to take the jump outside of learning outside of a university context.
Um, were you seeking those people, those mentors, those other business people, entrepreneurs actively, or was it something through courses, or yeah, how did you came across them?
I think I was seeking them. I think that's something I've been given feedback on as a bit of a superpower. Is like people give me feedback that I tend to find people who are really great in their domain, and then just like kind of like being like a sponge and trying to learn from them as much as possible. Which basically, when running a business is just being really good at hiring. And so I found a lot of mentors in some of them I've actually hired now in Andromeda. And it was just based on I was focusing on what do I want to learn, what do I want to build, and who can I go to who has done this before or have taken steps in this direction, and then I just just pick their brain, ask them questions like how do you build this, what do you think about that, and that really helps, and learn from their mistakes as well. What would you do differently? And that really helped me go down my path. And I think a lot of where we are today with Andromeda, a lot of the success that we have today comes from me kind of like learning from the mistakes of founders before me and builders before me. So yeah, so a lot of it was self sought out. And then yeah, and they just kind of but I inherently believe people want to help other people. And so a lot of the people that I sought out would just then make introductions to other people. Like I've made a lot of cold emails, outreach to different people who I thought would never want to talk to me, because they don't know me. But then people reply. Like I get a really high reply rate from cold emails. So that's also been very, very helpful in this journey.
But it comes back to having the guts doing this, right? A lot of people sitting in front of them, in front of the computer, not sending then those
Mm,
emails and those DMs. And I mean, I'm totally agreeing with you that the majority of people that I reached out to, and not necessarily only because of the podcast, but because of I saw this and that, this looks interesting, tell me more, right? And
mm, mm. Yeah.
but maybe if you don't mind, and spending two minutes on like the actually moment where this all came together. I mean, sometimes it's not a specific moments. It is some
Mm.
things are happening gradually, or step by step. But yeah, I mean, maybe you can share a bit about the early history, how this really then came together, and you made the decision, and yeah, got the team together, and yeah, tell me.
Yeah, so like you said, there wasn't like a single moment. It was very much like so many different moments that evolved and Abby and Andromeda, like I always refer to Abby as like an evolution. Lots of people ask me all the time, when will Abby be finished? And I don't think as a product, as a robot, she'll ever be finished. Like we're always going to work on the next iteration and the next iteration. And until she's can almost do everything that a person can do, like interact in terms of interactions and utility and everything. Like, she's not done. So she's been an evolution, and so is the company. But I think some of the earliest moments were, when I was coming out of when we were coming out of the pandemic and we had our first prototype of Abby. And at that time, COVID had shone a light on the loneliness epidemic, really. World Health Organization had like announced that, loneliness has the same health implications as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Like it was this big, big worldwide problem that was previously, not widely spoken about, but then suddenly, it was this massive, everyone was realizing how significant it is on your health. And I built Abby at that time to really address that problem for me. And so when I'd realized that, it wasn't just a problem that I was experiencing, and I thought Abby could be so much more than just this passion project for me in COVID. And the people who suffer the most with this are people in nursing homes. Like a lot of my experiences in COVID were very analogous to how residents live their lives day after day. Whoa, that zoomed in on your face really quickly.
Let's see if I can
Um,
unzoom it.
oh, cool.
Okay, please continue.
Technology. But yeah, a lot of people residing in nursing homes today have a very analogous experience to what I had during COVID, which is that they spend their time day after day in the same rooms without much meaningful social interaction with people. They have all their needs met, they're cared for, they're clean, they've got food, they've got everything that they need to kind of stay alive, but they're not living. And that's kind of how I felt during COVID. I felt like even though I had all of my needs met, I was doing my education online, I was calling my friends. I hadn't had it was about 4 or 5 months where I went without having any face-to-face contact with someone. And so that's when I kind of realized that Abby's impact could just, she could possibly serve a really, really, significant need. And I think one of the most fundamental human needs is connection, right? And that's what she was built for. So, those were kind of some of the pieces in the early days that got me to really start thinking much bigger about what could this be and how and that's when I started believing that Abby could possibly change the world, which is what every founder says, right?
I mean, there's a difference between changing the world because there's a new SaaS model coming out, or some new ChatGPT wrapper or Claude or whatever your favorite LLM is, and something that actually changed the world, right? So,
Mm.
and curing loneliness. I mean, we see more and more people, especially older ones, as you said. I mean, in Germany, over 50% of the population is over 50, I think. So,
Mm.
and with every single first world country, developed country, whatever you will, like industrial country, I think the situation is very similar. And
Mhm.
but also very young people.
Yeah.
I think numbers tell the same story. Um, but when it comes to now the more technical parts of it, you building, you programming, soldering, whatever you've done, but then there's the necessity of either finding customers or finding people financing that journey. How did this
Mhm.
come together?
That was a really steep learning curve for me because very much at the time I was like, I'm an engineer and, I didn't really know the first thing about building a business. I didn't know, how to price a product. I didn't know what even product market fit meant. There was so much to learn in the early days. And kind of like I was saying before, seeking out mentors and advisors, I knew that for me to be able to learn this, I'd probably want to. I joined one of the top accelerator programs in Australia, and they had some incredible mentors, some who came on board as investors now, well, back then and still investors today. And they really helped me with, I guess, the 101s of a business. They helped me with, getting my really first customers, helping me negotiate those contracts, and and really helped me figuring out how do I actually build a product that solves a real problem for customers. So it was a hard journey. Getting our first customer was hard. I ran the company in the very early days was bootstrapped. Not for I wouldn't say for very long, maybe like somewhere between 6 to 9 months. We were bootstrapped, and we ran free pilots for different nursing homes in my area for about, close to 12 months. Yeah. And that was really just to get a foot in the door to show people like, this is what we're building and this is the value that Abby can provide. And we put her into market quite early. Like, she wasn't a finished product when I put her into market. But that came out of necessity, really. And it ended up being quite a big advantage for us because we've had a customer voice in the loop of Abby's iterative design cycle throughout the whole thing. So we know, like today, the way Abby is designed, it's very much serves the purposes for our customers. And that's been our biggest advantage. Like some people have described our customer love as like religiously fanatic. And that was because we involved the customers so early on. So yeah, so getting the first customer, I'd say those free pilots definitely helped us. But then converting them to paid customers, that was another challenge because they had the service for free for so long. But yeah, but we did get our paid customers and yeah, grown a lot from since then.
I mean, I've been in that specific space, like pilot hell
Mm.
or prerogative,
Pilot hell, I like
uh,
that.
and this conversion of being a pilot customer partner to a paying customer, but also account expansion or customer expansion, right?
Mhm.
I mean, this is because I'm always trying to distill some personal and business learnings. So
Mhm.
you pause there a second. So if you don't mind and would like to share some secrets, I'm all ears.
Um, I don't think I could share anything that maybe people don't already know. Like it's really just what everyone says. It's like you just got to really understand your customer so well. You need to understand their pain points. You need to understand how like how cash works in their business, like how they finance things, what kind of like line your service fits under. Like, is it like for us, we were like, are we a medical product? Are we a lifestyle product? Are we like, what budget line is it coming out of? Like, just having like spending that time to deeply understand the customer and the industry. And, I think, and one, I guess probably this would probably be the thing I did that was a bit different. I brought on a chief commercial officer really early. So my chief commercial officer, Brian, he's brilliant, two times founder. I could brag about him forever. But we brought him on as he was our ninth full-time employee. And so for most startups, that seems really early. And that's, that was a feedback from a lot of people around me as well. And I also I also agree, like theoretically, and looking at the data of when people bring on a chief commercial officer, that was very early. Um, but that was a phenomenal, phenomenal decision because at the end of the day, like it's not my bread and butter, like sales and understanding how these like enterprise contracts are actually structured. And then so bringing someone in at that stage who this really was their bread and butter, and because he was a previous founder, he understood the challenges of the stage of the business that we were at, and he was able to just really scale our commercial growth. So that would be one thing that I think is a bit of a contrarian advice. People would be like, you don't bring on an exec team until later. And we didn't have an exec team, it was really just Brian. But bringing him on early was really eye-opening for me to understand how do you actually negotiate enterprise contracts and how do you structure them. And yeah, so I think that was probably the secret sauce that I had led to a lot of what we have today.
I mean, I don't want to go down that hole, but like, how do you structure them, right? There's it's and it depends on the industry. As I said, the sales
It
cycle
does.
is totally different, and how do
Mm,
you deploy? There's some products that can be deployed very easily. I mean, yours
mm,
is something that doesn't need a system integrator, right? When
mm,
we talk robotics or a line, certificates is always a big topic. Safety, insurance. But yeah,
mm.
as you said, the pricing topic. So we're just coming up with a number that is very often I see random, but
Yeah.
yeah, not understanding how much it actually costs to build that, and not only the BOM I'm talking about. You do have other
Mm,
people that not directly contributing to the product. So how do you
Mhm.
include in this? So service,
Mhm.
maintenance,
Mhm.
and but it's interesting that you say this was something that and the decision was also influenced by people, mentors that said, okay, maybe you need someone like this.
Well, actually, the opposite. People around me were saying, "Don't hire
Yeah, but
Brian." Like,
I mean the decision making that and doing that it came from
it honestly came from Brian because I actually did say no to him. I said, "It's crazy. I don't like we don't
genius.
do." And then he pitched himself. He was like,
You
"Yeah,
need
I'm going to
me.
add a lot of value to Andromeda. I know that I can." And it just felt right. Like we knew each. He didn't apply for. We didn't have an open role, so it's not like he applied for a role.
Hmm.
So he really just pitched himself and pitched himself really well. You can see why he's really good at negotiations. And so yeah, so I actually said no the first time, and then yeah, and I'm so glad that he came back and said that he really wanted to join because I think Andromeda would be a fundamentally very different company today if I didn't make that hire. So yeah, it was Brian. I have to say it's all him.
Awesome. Thanks for giving those
Mm,
insights and sharing those secrets. The decision of making free pilots is something that I
mm,
trying to not necessarily avoid because, as you said, I think you said something like getting the foot in the door. It's
mm.
very hard to show the value of the product. It's not the 99.99%, right? I mean, you have a different
Yeah,
product, but the same
yeah,
problem, the product is not finished yet. So how do I convince
yes,
people buying something that is not ready?
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
uh, but then again, bootstrapping yourself and not getting outside investment is very hard then to play this game. And I've seen a few startup
Mhm,
fail because they were trying to get the foot into a door with corporate, even though this is very hard to do and the sales cycle is
mhm,
very long and the decision making is very complicated and unclear.
mhm. Yeah.
Uh, so I'm trying to say, okay, do pilots, but only paid one. I just had a call yesterday with someone, and I said this, like trying to understand why they're not paying, or trying to understand if there's people out there that would be willing to pay, because then you're trying to
Mhm.
focus only on them, because there's
Yeah.
different kind of pull if you have someone who is committed. But
Yeah.
how is that
Yeah.
with your early endeavors? Was that because we gave it to you for free and I mean, I don't know the
Mm.
regulations in hospitals or uh, in caring
Yeah.
facilities.
Mm.
I think here in Germany it's crazy. I know a few
Yeah.
people that are trying to do
Yeah.
something similar, and yeah,
Mm.
maybe you can tell us a little bit about how this went.
Yeah, well, I think, like if you are in a position where you don't need to do free pilots, like I think that's absolutely the way to go because moving from a free pilot to paid pilot, that is it is such a jump for customers. And but for I think for me it was a position where, I a lot of people, I'm quite young. This is my first business. A lot of people, even when my first customers didn't even view it as a business, they viewed it as a student project. Where I was like, no, I'm running a real business. So it took, I had to really establish myself. And so I think I needed to build up my own credibility to show people how serious I was and how much value Abby could really provide. Um, and but I think if you can skip that free pilot stage, then that's absolutely what would be, I think, everyone's recommendation, and VCs love that. But yeah, but I'd say the the paid getting our first paying customer like that was from like once we had look, from the free pilots we were able to really demonstrate everything that I was promising my customers, like the impact that I said Abby could deliver, the value that she could bring to the homes. Once I was able to have some of those proof points, I was able to then kind of almost demonstrate somewhat more objectively than before, what how she could really improve, the experiences for residents in a home. And in the early days, it is more an art than a science, like you were talking about before with pricing. Like, it is a lot of it is trying to come up with, it was hard to find the first price point, particularly when something like Abby isn't very objective. Like it's not like we can point to her and be like, she's saving X number of hours from staff to do this. A lot of it is like, she's making people a lot happier. She's bringing joy to people. She's getting people to be more socially engaged. And that's really hard to quantify back to, a business metric. But after she's been in the homes, like the staff could see it, the healthcare staff could see it, the residents could see it, the executives who sign off on the enterprise contracts with us started seeing it. And so, yeah, so that's, I don't know if that answered your question, but that's a little bit about us in the early days. Yeah.
I mean, as you said, putting some KPIs on, I feel better is,
Yeah.
I mean, you
Yeah.
can do some service and studies, right? Before and
Hmm.
after. But this kind of talks to potential customers, I like to call them partners when we do pilots,
Mm.
because the product is not there yet, right?
Yeah.
Is how, especially if you're being a scientist, if you're being an engineer, you would like to start with numbers, right? My
Yeah.
product has these kind of technology features, and we're
Yes.
using this kind of whatever
Mm.
it is, versus what can it do for me?
Yeah. Yeah. No,
And
exactly,
was
exactly.
so, and I think here, what can it do for me needs to somehow be tied to some KPIs that you can do measure, right? Because if you,
Hmm.
sorry, if you can't, um, how do they say this? If you can't measure it, you can't improve it. So, and
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I
putting
like that. Yeah.
putting some numbers on these things. Do you think it helped you that this was something that everyone can, at least because of COVID, very recently could emphasize with? Is that the not
Cool.
emphasize? It could has empathy towards that, like understanding that loneliness is something
Yeah.
that you do feel, you do can see, right? And everyone has maybe elders or grandparents. So do you think that helped you versus some other businesses that it's very hard to feel for some product that is on a production line? There is no, not too much feeling there. The hard numbers count much more.
Yeah, no, it definitely, definitely did. I mean, I feel like I feel like a lot of the luck that I've had is around timing. Like businesses often you can have a great business, you can have a great idea for different technologies or products, and you can just have the wrong time, and that will be and I feel like for social robotics, people have been trying to build a social companion robot for like since the 1990s. And people have been imagining it, like scientists, engineers, storytellers have imagined like this companion robot or humanoid robot that can emulate human interaction and be your friend for, centuries. And so but it came down to timing, and for us, I felt like I was so lucky in a way to be so passionate about this technology at the time that that I was graduating as an engineer and building this because not only was like hardware coming down to a cost point where it was really cost effective to be able to build and deploy at scale something that you could really scale, but then LLMs were becoming more sophisticated and more available. And then on top of that, the industry and the world was like changing in such a way that, we've got all of these like social media technologies that are supposedly making us, they claim to make us more connected, but they really are just there to draw attention from you, and it actually makes people feel more and more disconnected. And so I felt like all of this was just coming at the right time to build something like Abby, and it just made so much sense. And we're not the first company to ever build a social companion robot, but I think the timing of ours has never been so just so like, what's the word? Like it's just been, it worked out so well. And so yeah, that's one of the things that I reflect on being, quite fortunate about, and also attributing why Andromeda is where it is today. So yeah, yeah.
I don't want to come up with some names and want your opinion on that. Maybe behind the scenes, but without being too judgy. Just from a very, I feel that the robotics community is still very much connected and very openly friendly in a
Mhm.
friendly competition and exchanging
Yeah.
ideas and technology.
Mm,
I mean, it's a couple of episodes ago, but I had Brenda on the pod, and she's doing Homey,
mhm,
and there's Raphael, another one, a German guy who's trying to bring robots into homes. I think he's based in Munich. So there's a few
mhm,
people that I know that are
mm.
trying to, and not necessarily the exactly same thing that you're trying to solve, but are you guys, do you know these guys? Do you talk to each other?
Oh yeah, no, I know Brenda, and I know like there's so many players that are coming into the space, like Enchanted Tools, like with their
Hmm.
Mirakai is like so cute. For Fauna Robotics just launched. Like there's so many players coming into this space, and what was it, cartwheel robotics. Like Scott is fantastic. Like I absolutely love Scott and Yogi. I think, and why I love them so much is like traditionally the humanoid robotics industry has been, and there's this article that just came out that one of my op-eds came out about it today. But like the industry has traditionally been so like aggressively masculine and militant looking. Like these humanoid robots are being built, and mostly, not all of them are designed to go into nursing homes, but the humanoid robotics industry has just been really focused on these almost like iRobot, like stereotype humanoid robots. And everyone's kind of pitching this versatile general purpose humanoid robot that will be part of everyone's everyday life. And, and that's the future that I believe in as well. But I think if that is the future that people are going to create, like the design philosophy has to be reconsidered with what you see around the industry. It was a huge reason I also built Abby the way she did. Like, she's only about, she's the size of like a young child. She's bright and colorful. She has a lot of personality. A lot of what I believe our strengths are is around how we've chosen to design her and build her as a character, as opposed to focusing on other more traditional, metrics in robotics like dexterity or autonomy or any of these other things. And but what we're seeing now, like I'd say the first wave of humanoid robotics has been these militant 9 foot tall Terminators. But we're seeing now the next wave are going to be these more like creative, more approachable, more endearing, more interactive companion robots. And I'm so excited for that industry. Like I know that Abby has huge potential to be leading this wave. But just seeing other people come into the space and understand, like we're all building the same future. And what do they say? Like rising tides lift all boats. Like I love connecting with those founders and talking to them and about like, the future that they see. And like you said, it's friendly competition and the market is so massive. Like the market is going to be so massive that even though, of course, I believe Andromeda is going to be number one, like there's going to be so many players in the space. I see it like the car industry where, you have different models of cars, like your high end, like your Porsches and premium brands, through to like your Hondas and your Fords and everything in between. And then you'll have different form factors like buses and trucks and, SUVs and hatchbacks. So it's like, it's not going to be a one size fits all that takes the whole market. Like everyone's going to have their own approach to how they're going to be building their robots, and different homes and different individuals will want to adopt different types based on their own needs. So yeah, so I think it's just exciting to see so many players enter the space. And yeah, like you said, friendly competition is the best way to put it.
I had Evan from Standard Bots on the pod just a couple of days. No, I think it was yeah, a couple of days ago, and we were talking about how some companies shifting when it comes to humanoids, shifting from manufacturing to
Hmm.
homes, because there's
Hmm.
different KPIs you're being
Hmm.
how do you say this, being compared with, because you said
Hmm.
if you have a humanoid company and I don't, because my one has just two arms and is on a platform,
Hmm.
um, if those legs cost, I don't know, 15K, 10K, and you buy 100 units, so there
Hmm.
is no way you can compete with mine who has not legs, because in some use case you don't need legs, right? And so
Hmm. Hmm.
he said that this kind of advantage is something that he's counting on, but
Hmm.
also something regarding the like approachability. Uh,
Yes. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I've been in a conversation, remember, with someone from Boston Dynamic, and they said they had like 300 different form factors for a head, and they
Yeah.
wanted to choose. They wanted to make the decision for something that is, yeah, that is likable, that is not making
Hmm.
people being afraid of, right? And so,
Hmm.
as you said, we do need to find our way, and there's yeah, the market
Yeah.
is big enough, and the use cases are big enough.
Hmm.
Um,
I think that's what people are underestimating is like you could build like the most technically advanced companion humanoid robot with like the most the most utility and the most technical skills that that you could that most capability. But if the robot isn't approachable and people don't, and if people don't feel safe around it, it almost doesn't matter the capability of the robot, unless if they're not going to ever like purchase one, buy one, bring it into their homes, or adopt it or welcome it into like domestic environments. And so I think that's something that people are overlooking a lot. Like it is so exciting, the capability of humanoid robots today, but if the approachability isn't considered, it doesn't matter because you never get there. And so that's been kind of our philosophy and something that we've been like really, really focusing on since day one.
Disruption comes from adoption, right? As you said,
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
there's no way that you and I mean, inviting something in our home is very important and very
Hmm.
we look at this like very differently. But even for let's say traditional robotics companies, building a product, it still needs to be operated by an operator, at least today. So
Hmm.
if the interface, if working with that product is not going smooth, they will do everything in their power to not letting that pilot become
Hmm.
reality and convert,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
it sucks and they
Yeah.
will find ways to manipulate or to just not using it, right? I've seen
Hmm.
companies selling some stuff and then they're visiting because I've been in customer success also, and then you go there and it just plays in the in some
Hmm.
corner so. Um,
Yeah.
you moved from Australia to the US. We talked about this a little bit earlier before the podcast. Um, I mean, this is not being offended, but I remember when I was in Australia. This is a long time ago, way too long to admit. But um, I remember back then the joke was that this is like you guys have been so far behind technology-wise. I
Hmm.
remember that everything was so slow and so expensive and so bad. Um, but I do know that you guys really stepped up and really are trying to deliver this kind of technology. But maybe you tell me a bit more about where you guys are heading, right? Opening this office is a strategic decision, right? Because you told me that you guys are still producing a lot of things in Australia. Maybe you can tell me a little bit about this.
Yeah, no, I mean it's very, very common for high growth startups in Australia to expand to the US like immediately, or like that's usually their first expansion. So that was a really kind of like more common and traditional step. We still have majority of our team in Melbourne, and manufacturing is all still back in Melbourne, given that that's where our largest customer base is. So I moved here in September last year. So I've been here for about four months now, I think, roughly. So it's still early days for me in the US, but the expansion just made so much sense here. Like, California has the highest density of nursing home providers in the whole country in the US. The highest, like all the venture capital funding is like coming out of San Francisco. And when you're looking at the top talent around the world that are solving like the most frontier challenges and technical problems, it's also coming out of like, Stanford, Berkeley, all of the like, and even if they're not coming here, like students are flying here or graduates are flying here to get jobs. So like from all three fronts, which is what, there's only really three customers in a business. You're well, more than three, but there's like, your customers, your team, and your investors. Yeah, those are really the three actually. Like this is the epicenter, so it made so much sense that we would be here. I think I did come probably earlier. I came earlier than I originally intended to. We raised our Series A round from investors here, and they nudged me to move earlier. And to be honest, like yeah, I think it's definitely the right call, and it just made so much sense. So I think you'll see a much higher growth from us over the next 12 months. It's pretty exciting what we have yeah, have coming up.
Um, especially what we talked earlier, like this, having people with the same kind of mindset around you, the same kind of,
Yeah.
I don't like the word work ethic because this might shine a bad light on other people, but like the same kind of drive, the same kind of dynamic and enthusiasm, being
Yeah.
surrounded by these people is really helping. And as you said, learning curve. So you see other people failing more often and faster. So
Yeah.
this does a lot to you and your business.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely what I've noticed here. When I first, I mean, like I said, I've only been here for a handful of months, and most of my peer group here are founders, and so many of their startups have already failed. And in Australia, I'm like, oh, they didn't fail this, like, what, they're not failing this soon. And I thought, is it because it's harder to build a startup in San Francisco? But as I kind of reflected on it a bit more and talked to founders, I realized it's not because it's harder to build a business here. It's because startup founders here fail faster. They figure out whether something is or isn't going to work much, much sooner. Whereas I feel like in perhaps other parts of the world, like in Australia, they do take longer. Like they drag out the death of their startup, which actually isn't great. Like it's like a strange analogy is kind of like a breakup, like someone giving you hope that they might like want to be with you, but they never really intend to do it. It's like that hope is so dangerous for something that will never actually happen. And startup and there's also no stigma here for failing
Mm.
businesses because it's normal. It's learning. It's like you either win or you learn. Like those are the two things. And like people here, it's like the sooner you fail more businesses, the sooner you get to the business that is going to succeed for you. So yeah, so I think that whole mentality and that drive and looking at startups from that lens is highly advantageous for, creating more successful startups here.
I think yeah, one of the most important things that you said here was like the word of like the stigma of failing.
Hmm.
I think if you are being judged by the success or failure and the way you see success and failure, you're trying to make it work, even though deep inside you understand that this is not going to work.
Hmm.
So I'm from
Hmm.
Berlin, and one of the classic cliche jokes is around the airport. So I think it opened like 8 years later, uh,
Hmm.
then participated and announced. Uh,
Hmm.
so and I mean, there's a lot of things when it comes to an airport, and it's much more complicated than contracts and but deciding like this is not it. That's just
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think some studies show this that people are uh, lean more towards investing
Hmm.
versus risking something new. So investing in the
Yeah.
past versus trying something new. I think this is really
Mm.
something that is preventing us from innovation in Europe here. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting the way you see things and that repeatedly you hear this from people joining San Francisco or the Bay Area in general. Uh, is that something that you're trying to bring back to Australia? I mean, you've just been there now for 4 months, but um, like the idea when I talked to a few founders that had been successful, unsuccessful, whatsoever, this vibe, this mentality, bringing back from
Mm.
where they're coming from originally.
Mm. I'm so hopeful that Australia's like startup ecosystem is going to be like really really thriving in the next few years. It makes sense the stage that they're at. Like Silicon Valley has been around for many many decades. Australia's startup ecosystem has been around for not even like 2 decades, like one and a half really. So it makes sense, like a lot of even if you look at it from VC funds, like they are they most of them are just trying to demonstrate like a return on investment to their LPs from their first fund. So they're not going to take as much risk because they're just trying to establish themselves as investors in the Australian startup ecosystem. So everyone's just taking a lot less risk because of the stage that they're at. So it makes sense. But when you have a hyper growth startup like what we do, you're going to want to go to the environment where it's already like, everyone's done this before. Everyone's already like kind of in that headspace of like what is needed to really make this, like how much money do you need to be able to do the things that you need to do, as opposed to like optimizing for like trying to like mitigate like your downside. So there's a lot of potential for, and I really do believe in the ecosystem in Australia. And I think I was just probably a bit too early for that ecosystem and wanted to go somewhere a bit more mature.
I mean, let's see what the future will show. I mean, I think your journey is just, I mean, very early beginnings. You're still
Mhm.
very young, uh, and is something that you said earlier that just in the last couple of years things are possible that has not been had not been possible before, right? Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, you were talking about
Yeah.
hardware, you were talking about people, like this kind of investment. I mean, there's a bit of a hype, right? So this kind of numbers are only possible because of the hype. But
Yeah.
technology-wise, a few things is and I'm talking to a lot of founders, right? And especially in robotics, and they say we thought this would take years, right?
Hmm.
And then
Yeah.
just within 2 years, everything was possible.
Yeah.
And really, like we could do things now.
Mm.
Very exciting. I'm very happy that I think I first contacted you, and I think that you were just about to move from Australia
Yes,
to
yes.
San
It's why it
Francisco.
took a while for us to get on call. I was kind of like very transient and moving a lot, but I'm glad we finally got to do it because yeah,
Yeah.
this is a lot of fun. I do watch your other interviews, so I really do enjoy your podcast.
Yeah, thanks for saying this, but thanks for attending. And also, I'm really keen to see what you guys are doing. I don't think I will be in Australia. I mean, I have a good friend. Back then, we were in Australia and New Zealand together, and it was always we need to go back, we need to go back. But it's such a long way from where I
It
live.
is. It is. Yes, it is.
So maybe give it a few more years, and I'm happy that yeah, you can do what you would like to do, and that you are able to push yourself to be in a position where you can just express the ideas and I mean, as you said, a lot of these things started very very early on,
Mhm.
and building math. Yeah, your different kind of interests, putting them together.
Mhm.
And I think now being an entrepreneur, but please correct me if I'm wrong, gives you now the opportunity to see other things that you haven't been aware of, right? So you only can, now, how do you say this? I think you said it twice. The uh, seeing and becoming.
You can't be what you can't
Oh
see.
yeah, you
Yeah.
can't be what you can't see, right?
Yeah.
Now you see
Yeah.
so many other founders and you see so
Mm.
many other business and technologies that the potential of what is possible within Andromeda over the Abbey
Mhm.
is even bigger. Looking forward to
Yeah.
see. Can you tell me maybe as a finisher when I can expect see this on a larger scale or
Um, I I guess I don't want to I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. That's
Mm,
something my Jennifer, my CEO, keeps me, or my whole exec team really keeps me accountable for. I'm a founder and I'm an optimist, so I'm always
mm,
thinking, the future is like tomorrow. It's
mm.
right around the corner. Um, but I'd say we do have some really exciting things going on, and our growth is really, really fast. And I'd say, yeah, Andromeda is going to be a name that's quite well known over the, next 12 to 24 months. So, yeah.
Excited. Yeah, thanks again for taking the time, giving all the insights and backstories. I'm very keen to see. Oh, like I said earlier, before we had the podcast, I will be there next month. So,
Yeah, let's catch up.
even though you don't have a like production facility, which is always very interesting to me, uh, let's see if we can. Have you? Are you going to GDC?
I have team members going to GTC and I might be going to GDC, but I
Let's
have
see.
team members who are there. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Grace. I'm very thankful. Take care and looking forward to see what's coming out in the next 12 to 18 months. Um, and maybe I will have you on the podcast again. So I keep an eye out.
Yeah, definitely open to it. Thanks, Aaliyah.
Take care.
Thank you.
Mhm.